Okay, so in this lesson I want to talk about DNA structure. Okay, so remember DNA stands for, well, actually, I didn't actually mention what it stood for. DNA is an acronym, right? Stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. Here's a stupid mnemonic for you to know, in case you're not good with names. Okay, the ox rides on nucleic acid, right? An ox, basically male version of a cow, so rides on nucleic acid, right? That's a good mnemonic. You should probably get to know if you're not good with it. Okay, deoxyribonucleic acid. You can break it into three. Three words: deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, as I mentioned, it's the name of the molecule which determines the characteristics for most living things. Okay, so every human has DNA, and we're all very similar, even though we all come from different cultural backgrounds, but we've got basically the same DNA structure, more or less. I showed you the Lego analogy that I had, right? So it's a double helix DNA, okay? So it's the two uprights, okay? They're chains basically of sugar and phosphate. So they're alternating chains of sugar and phosphate molecules. Joining these two uprights are base pairs, okay? They're two different chemicals and they bind together. So that's just a chunk. Basically, you can think of it as a gene, right? A gene, remember, is a part of DNA, part of the DNA strand. So DNA, remember, is a double helix, looks something like this. Okay, part of the DNA is called a gene, right? Okay, the bases, okay, the rungs, so remember how I talked about the rungs? So these things, think of them as things that hold the ladder together, the steps of the ladder. The rungs are made up of paired bases. Okay, they're actually bases, these two chemicals. Okay, they're called nitrogenous bases because they contain nitrogen, right? Nitrogenous bases. Okay, hydrogen bonds hold them together. Okay, so what's basically holding these two things together? So the click, think of the click together, is a hydrogen bond, okay? So these two are called nitrogenous bases. Okay. There are rules basically. So there are 4 different types of nitrogenous bases in DNA, and there's a rule basically, okay? Not all of them can join together. Okay, they fit together like jigsaw. You can think of it that way. Okay, so base pairs rules. Okay, now there are 4 base pairs. Okay, so it's worth remembering these as well. I know there's a lot to remember in this topic. Adenine, thymine, guanine, don't even know if I'm pronouncing them correctly, and cytosine. Okay, adenine, thymine, guanine, cytosine. Cytosine, sorry. Okay, and here's how they join up. Okay, ATGC, all right? Another stupid mnemonic, think of AC/DC, the rock band. Okay, AC/DC sounds pretty similar to ATGC. So only the adenine joins with the thymine and the guanine with a cytosine. Okay, only these two join and only these two join. That's it. An A can't join with a G and a T can't join with a C, and so on and so forth, right? They've all got different chemical structures, that's why. So all have different chemical structures. Okay, this rule, so rule of base pairing, rule known as complementary base pairing. Why is it called complementary base pairing? Okay, complementary, think of the word complement. Complement means to complement one another, means to join. Okay, so think of your hands, right? They fit together quite well. So think of them as the base pairs, right? So think of one hand, your left hand being an A, right hand being a T, they join together. Okay, whereas whereas an A and G don't join together, right? They don't combine. Now, they're complementary base. They're the rules for complementary base pairing. Should also mention that DNA molecules form chains. Okay, they form chains of building blocks. Okay, these are called nucleotides. Nucleotides, okay, they're chains of building blocks. Each nucleotide consists of a sugar molecule, a bonds to a phosphate molecule, okay? So each bonds to sugar molecule and a phosphate molecule. Okay, so if you just focus on the sides, the uprights of the DNA, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate, sugar, phosphate. Okay, that's what nucleotides are. Okay, they're the building blocks of DNA. Nucleotides, right? Well, back to the analogy. So these things, right, that's a nucleotide. One of these is a nucleotide, and one of these is a nucleotide. So you've got two nucleotides here made of alternating sugar and phosphate pairs, right? And as I mentioned, genes, basically they line up along the row, line up in a row along the length of the DNA molecule, right? So if I draw an extended version of the DNA helix, double helix, if I can. Genes, so these are genes here, one gene here, two genes, three genes, four genes, dot, 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 dot. Okay, genes line up in a row along DNA. Right? And in humans, basically, a single gene can vary in length, okay, so the length of a gene, in humans, okay, can go from 100 bases, 100 to over 1 million bases. Okay, bases as in these things, the rungs. Remember the bases in the middle, sorry, connecting the two nucleotides. Okay, so just to recap, right, I talked about the structure of DNA, right? So it's deoxyribonucleic acid. Stupid mnemonic to know is deox rides on nucleic acid. Okay, it's made of nucleotides, right? So the two ladder uprights and rungs in the middle, they're made of base pairs. There are base rules, complementary base pair rules, right? ATGC, think of ACDC. Okay, only an A can join with a T and a G can join with a C. But an A can't join with a G or a C, or a T can't join with a G or a C, right? The pairs, these are called nitrogenous bases, right? These rungs of the ladder, the double helix. And that's the structure of DNA in a nutshell.